Vercingetorix is almost guaranteed to be open field meta in Rise of Kingdoms, so today I'm going to share with you guys why you absolutely should not expertise him, because he might be the biggest trap commander we have seen in a very long time. Now, as you guys know, over the last couple of videos I have talked about how I think Vercingetorix is going to be extremely strong, especially in a 6 or 7 army lineup in Rise of Kingdoms, and he may even find himself in the best 5 army lineup, but of course we'll have to wait and see with testing. So why am I telling you that you almost certainly should not be getting this commander? Well, stay tuned, because it's actually really important, and honestly there's more than one good reason. But before we jump in, of course, what's going on, guys? Cheers. Now, as you guys know, I am a sponsored partner creator with Rise of Kingdoms, so if you want more Rise of Kingdoms content, drop a thumbs up down below and use the new hype feature. It actually really helps out channels like mine a ton, and subscribe while you're down there. We are so close to 100,000 subs. Okay, now the first thing we have to get out of the way in this video, and this is absolutely critical.
Vercingetorix.
Vercingetorix or Getorix.
Vercingetorix.
Vercingetorix or Getorix.
So it's Vercingetorix? It sounds like the pronunciation varies based on whether you're speaking French or English. Obviously I'm speaking English, so I'm going to be using the English pronunciation, but Vercingetorix, I'm gonna keep it a buck with you guys. Straight up, that doesn't make sense. I don't have a master's degree in English, but like, I'm putting my foot down on this one. I don't have the authority to do so, but someone out there's got to change it, because that just at least change the spelling. Then that's just not, no, absolutely. Okay, anyway, Vercingetorix is a trap commander. He is absolutely a commander that most of you watching should not expertise, even though I've spent the last 2 videos talking about how strong I think he will be. I am standing by that, by the way. I do think that he is going to be very good in the open field, but I also understand that a majority of you guys do not have a ridiculous amount of legendary commander sculptures just sitting around on your account collecting dust. On the other hand, I have 2,237 legendary commander sculptures, so I'm in a position right now where I probably can afford to make a mistake on my account. But I hear what you guys are already typing in the comments. Okay, you're saying, Omniarch, how do you justify those 2 statements? How are you saying that he's almost guaranteed to be field meta and simultaneously saying almost nobody should get their hands on him? How do those 2 things make sense? And the answer is that those things are not mutually exclusive. It sounds like they are, it feels like they are, but they're actually not. So let's break it down. Why is Vercingetorix an absolute trap for a lot of players? Well, the first thing we have to touch on is, okay, what are the commanders that we're looking to pair with him when he lands in the game? And I think the number one pairing, lots of people are looking to put him behind King Arthur to make the King Arthur a lot more tanky, even more tanky than the Hector pairing probably, and even more supportive than the Hector. And he has a 40% damage bonus for the active skill of King Arthur, which hits like a truck. I mean, it just is what it is. And on top of all of that, there is rage reduction on the 4th skill of King Arthur. It says whenever you launch a combo attack, you have a 30% chance to reduce all targets rage by 100 every second for 2 seconds. And the 2nd skill of Vercingetorix says if this commander's troop is on the map, whenever it causes the enemy troop to lose 100 rage, this commander's troop deals 5% more direct damage, combo damage, or smite damage for 5 seconds. Now we'll have to test this in game to see how this actually works. It could be the case that this is just worded incorrectly, but basically whenever there are 2 bullet points following a condition, those bullet points are not bound by one another. They are independent variables controlled by the same condition. But it could also be the case that if this is worded poorly, that the only rage reduction that counts here is the rage reduction from this skill, right? That's not how it's worded, but again, like, this is all that we're looking at a novella's worth of text here. Okay, it could just be translated improperly. Whenever it causes the enemy troop to lose 100 rage, there's no condition there. It's just whenever there's rage reduction. Okay, so really interesting stuff. And if this works with the 4th skill of King Arthur, that's going to be really good. You're going to stack this faster than I thought. Beyond that though, I think there's definitely some synergy with Achilles, because again, super strong AoE active skill. Achilles needs as much tankiness as he can get as well, and we've got bonuses to rage gain speed on both of these commanders. On top of that, Achilles and King Arthur are combo commanders, so we're going to pop these percent chance on basic attack skills more often, reducing the enemy's rage more often, which will increase the speed with which you gain a bonus to combo attack damage here, and like I said, bonus to rage gain speed. Okay, so you can have with Achilles up to 30% rage gain speed if you can stack up Achilles skill to 20% on its own. Okay, so those are the 2 commanders most people are talking about. I've also touched on Bai Qi. I think it's less likely to be the best pairing, but it's not impossible, especially especially if you're looking at maybe a 3 infantry army lineup. I think with the rage gain speed on both of these commanders, I know this is only for 1 second, and the fact that Bai Qi is a glass cannon, I think that this could be a really great pairing as well. And on top of all of that, somebody in my comment section actually reminded me of this, but the fight or flight talent in the smite tree actually has AoE rage reduction with Bai Qi, right? It says whenever this commander troop deals any type of smite damage, all troops hit by the damage lose 45 rage. So just like we talked about with King Arthur, that rage reduction, based on how this is written, should also count towards the second skill stacks on Vercingetorix, which is going to be really nice. You'll be able to stack this up a lot faster than I initially thought, but we'll have to wait for testing to see if the talents actually work here. You may even consider him as a secondary to Liu Che in a 3 army lineup for infantry, because again, we've got combo attacks here which will trigger some of the skills on Vercingetorix a lot more frequently, so there's some synergy there as well. What are we not considering pairing him with? Well, probably not archers. I think there might be a supportive case for Alp Arslan, but really I think the Alp with Herman is kind of like, that's already super supportive and it deals a lot of damage, so you're probably going to run that. So we're really looking at mainly cavalry and then possibly infantry, right? I think that's really what we're looking at right now with Vercingetorix, the primary beneficiary being cavalry. Okay, so let's think about, well, what are we using with our King Arthur right now? I think there's 3 different choices, right? A lot of people are running the Philip behind King Arthur, a lot of people are running the Hector behind King Arthur, or you're running possibly the William. Maybe you're doing a Hua Arthur if you're still using the wedge formation. But 2 of those commanders we touched on are leadership commanders, and it would make sense that the next generation leadership would be a little bit stronger, and therefore it does make sense that he would find himself behind King Arthur. Okay, well, there is a huge problem with that. Okay, and that is the fact that we are expecting new cavalry commanders in probably late September, early October. That is like the safest estimate, but even if it drags on longer than that, and even if Vercingetorix is farther away than we expect, we are still basically guaranteed to get new cavalry commanders by the end of this year. So if we're looking at Vercingetorix as a commander that is going to work really well with cavalry, well, let's say Vercingetorix lands in the game in early July, which is what I'm expecting. Okay, July 13th, 14th, whatever you want to call it. That means you're going to use him for like 3 months until a new cav commander comes out, and that cavalry commander is almost certainly going to be a better pairing in a 2 cav army lineup than a leadership commander that is supportive. Okay, so at that point Vercingetorix becomes a 3 cav lineup commander potentially, depending on what this next cavalry commander is. On top of that though, things look even worse for Vercingetorix because he might not be the only leadership commander we get in 2026 either. As you guys know, we've talked about this in recent videos, but the community is kind of expecting a new special KVK story to land in 2026 because the developers have said that they do plan on releasing one every single year. And last time we got Achilles with Hector. Okay, and that was the first time that a special KVK story came with 2 commanders. We saw a cavalry and we saw a leadership commander land there. Now, of the different KVK stories that we've gotten, we got Ragnar Prime, who is infantry, we got Achilles, which is cavalry. Now we're expecting an archer commander, but what if they do the same thing they did with Achilles and release an archer with a leadership commander? I mean, that is a non-zero chance, especially if the next KVK special story is centered around some sort of conflict like was the case with Achilles versus Hector, right? If they do that same sort of thing, then we can expect maybe 2 KVK special story commanders coming down the pipeline before the end of the year, right? And again, we don't know when that will land in the game. I suspect in Q4 at some point, right? So October, November, December, something like that. I got my hands on Achilles on November 4th, 2025, so maybe a similar timeline. 1 year since Achilles, we'll get another special KVK commander. Now, just to play devil's advocate with myself, it's also possible that the new special KVK commander, if it is a archer leadership double release like we saw with Achilles, it's possible that it could be a leadership garrison commander, right? So it could be an archer rally commander and it works in the field, sort of like Ashurbanipal, sort of like Nebu. There's been lots of archer rally commanders that just work really well in the field. We could see that, and we could see a leadership garrison, and then you have sort of a rally garrison duality there, and then that would make a lot of sense, right? I mean, it wouldn't, frankly, it would not make sense for them to release a leadership field commander and then you know, in 4 months release another leadership field commander. That's kind of crazy. So maybe they're saving the leadership garrison commander for that special KVK story. And the reason that we might get a garrison commander that is leadership this year is because for the last 3 years that has been the trend, right? We got Hera in 2023, we got Lapu Lapu in 2024, and then we got Matthias in 2025. So for the last 3 years we've gotten a leadership garrison commander. It would make sense that perhaps if we're going to get one this year, maybe it's that special KVK story commander, in which case the argument that Vercingetorix is going to be replaced by another open field leadership in just a couple of months kind of falls apart. And here's the thing about leadership commanders, right? They do have the benefit of being versatile, so you can use them with different lineups, right? I think the last 2 leadership commanders have mainly been used with cavalry, but I know some people liked to use Philip behind their Yue Liang. I think that was more so just a band-aid because frankly I heard of a lot of people using that pairing, but I never saw it myself. Like I don't actually know anybody, I don't think. I mean, you can comment down below, but I don't think I've actually seen that, or like in my KV case I've never heard anyone in my alliance be like, oh my god dude, Yue Liang with Philip is insane dude. It really just feels like something you do if you're running 3 archers, and not many people are. So like really cavs have been the main beneficiary there. Even though leadership are versatile, you can use them in other places. But here's the thing, even if leadership are versatile and you can use them in other places, I don't think we've ever seen a meta where we are running more than 1 open field leadership commander in a 7 army lineup, right now it's Hector. We're using him behind King Arthur pretty much, and if it's not Hector it's Philip, right? But you're not running Hector and Philip in a 7 army lineup. At least I've not heard anybody make the argument that that is the play. It's like one or the other, right? And you can look back at the meta for many years, and really the leadership commander that finds himself in the 7 army lineup is usually a band-aid commander. If you go back to, I think Trajan maybe was like the last time that we actually had a dedicated leadership march, and maybe that will be the case with Vercingetorix, but like I wouldn't put my money on it, right? So okay, if he does end up being in the field meta, then your recent leadership commander investments probably are going out the window. And then we just established that we might get a special KVK story in this year that has an archer and a leadership. So okay, that leadership commander might immediately replace Vercingetorix in his own role just a couple of months later, right? So not only is he at risk of being replaced by the next Cavs, which he almost guaranteed will, there's also a smaller chance that he's literally replaced by another leadership commander sometime before the end of this year as well. So we're looking at a commander that has an effective shelf life of 3 to 6 months, right? Unless the next cavalry commander is garbage, and unless we don't see a leadership release in the next special KVK story, which is possible, right? I mean, it's totally possible. Then it's like, okay, well, even if the cav is really good, maybe you can use it with infantry, but we're also expecting new infantry commanders probably in December of this year, right? Now it could push into January depending on the timeline, right? But like, again, that's still 6 months out, right? So like we're in this weird situation where it's like, okay, even if Vercingetorix is super strong, which a lot of people are even debating that, right? I mean, he's a shielding supportive commander. I think he's going to be really strong. Even if that's the case, right, he still will probably have an expiration date on his head, and I just don't know where else you would put him. What else would you do with him? Like, his kit doesn't look like it will lend itself well to garrisons because 2 of the skills probably won't work in the garrison, right? Like Cornered Beast says when you're in a field troop. The second skill says if this commander troop is on the map. Okay, so this won't do anything in the garrison either. So it's not even the same case as Hector, where it's like, okay, if you invest in him and maybe he falls out of the field meta, but he might still be like a decent secondary in a garrison. I don't even think that's the case with Vercingetorix. Now again, we'll have to wait and see. We have to see some testing, but it's like, hopefully you guys can understand now why I'm saying like, yeah, I think he's going to be really strong when he lands in the game. He's probably going to find himself in the best 6 or 7 army lineup, maybe the best 5 army lineup if you're running 2 cavs, 2 infantry, 1 archer, or 2 cavs, 2 archer, 1 infantry. But at the same time, like, that's probably only going to be the case for 3 to 6 months, and you guys probably don't have infinite sculptures to blow on random stuff. On top of that, he's looking like he's going to be the mightiest governor commander, so you're going to have to get him from the mightiest governor event. I'm hoping, okay, I'm really hoping that the developers will also launch him with an event, right? So a lot of times, like with Achilles, you can get him from an event. With Gangan Chan, you got him from an event, and then you could proceed to get him from the Wheel of Fortune or something like that, right? With Vercingetorix, I think a lot of people will consider using him as an open field commander, but not if they can't get their hands on him, right? So it would make the most sense for the developers to have some sort of event with him and say, okay, if you want to unlock him through Mightiest Governor, you can get a bunch of sculptures that way, or you can unlock him, you know, through this bundle or this limited time event. You know, you get 10 sculptures of him just for the summon, right? And then after that, you have to win Mightiest Governors. Who knows, right? But that's definitely still some friction there for Vercingetorix. So he seems like a big trap, right? I mean, like, his kit looks really good. I like it a lot. We like the tankiness. We like how supportive he is. But with such a short expiration date, with such a short shelf life, it's really hard to justify the investment in him unless you're a Giga Whale, right? And a lot of you guys watching probably are not Giga Whales, myself included, although I do have lots of sculptures to spend, so I may get my hands on him anyway. It's also worth noting that he could be really great for Canyon. So I mean, hey, even if he falls out of the field meta, maybe you'll still get use out of him in Canyon, who knows? But there is one saving grace. Okay, there's one saving grace with investing in Vercingetorix, and that is the fact that the developers at the most recent in-person meetup where he was actually revealed or teased, they did say in the Q&A section at the very end of their presentation that they were still considering giving all players one commander reset every single year. Now, for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, I made videos about this back in January when it first came to the game ever, and that is the Rights of Renewal event. It lasted for 6 days, and you could spend gems to reset all skills for one legendary commander of your choice. And this is what I'm talking about when I say that the developers basically kind of confirmed that this was going to be a once per year thing. Okay, so what that means is if Vercingetorix lands in July and then he is power crept by the end of the year, there is a good chance that at some point in January, perhaps we will get a commander reset event. Okay, now what is the actual timing of this event? I don't know. Okay, so I'm not going to sit here and say yes, it's definitely going to come around every single January, right? They could push it back, they could do it with some different event or something like that, or a commander release, right? I know they did that with Sun Tzu Prime when he landed in the game. But the point in me telling you that is that, okay, let's say you do get your hands on him, you probably won't be locked into him forever, right? You will have an out. It's just going to cost you a lot of gems. Okay, so you can expertise him, use him for a couple of months, he falls out of the meta, then you spend some gems to just reset him, get all those sculptures back, and you are good to go. That's the only sort of silver lining here for people that still want him, but they are now upset at everything that I just said in this video. New cavs by the end of the year, possible new leadership commander by the end of the year, and probably new infantry by the end of the year. It's going to be really hard for him to stay in the meta more than 6 months, so keep that in mind. Now, this is almost certainly going to be my last video covering Vercingetorix before he lands in the game. I probably won't even make a full video about him when he lands in the game. I'll just discuss him in future guides where I talk about your best 5, 6, 7 army lineups. So if you guys are sick of hearing about him, I apologize, but I just wanted to get this video out there before he does land in the game, just letting you guys know what my official stance is here, just because I do think he's very strong. He will probably be very good. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you should invest in him. He might not be a must-have commander for a lot of you, or even for most of you, okay, for all the reasons that we talked about in this video. But I'm curious to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below. Am I wrong about this? Like, do you think he's going to be so good that it won't matter what comes out next? I really am curious to know what you guys have to say. While you're down there, consider dropping a thumbs up on the video. It really does help out the channel a ton. And like I said earlier, use the new hype feature. I know that we're so close to 100,000 subscribers and it doesn't seem like I'm a small channel, but here on YouTube, I am considered a small channel. Okay, small channels are what are eligible for the hype feature, and one of the requirements is that you have less than 500,000 subscribers. So by YouTube's own definition, I'm a small channel, and I mean, if you just look at the views per video, I am a small channel. So use the new hype feature. It really helps out the channel a ton, and you might think you're subscribed, but YouTube actually unsubscribes people over time. So double check down below to make sure you're subbed. And with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Omniarch. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Peace.